Hangouts, newbie.
All right, and we are live. This is Jesse here. Welcome to another episode of Comic Conversation. It's Tuesday again, so time for some more fun here. I have with me a special guest, so welcome to Mr. Jeff from Comic Bento. Thanks for joining us.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
All right.
It's a pretty nice place you got here. I like what you've done with it. It's it's roomy. You know, looks a lot like my kitchen.
Yeah, we put those blinds up just for you.
I appreciate it.
All right, cool. And we have a couple panel members here returning, so thank you for coming back, guys. Thanks for not letting me scare you away. Mr. Edwin from StrictlyComix, how are you?
I'm good. Hello to everybody in the YouTube world. This is Edwin from StrictlyComix. Hope everybody had a happy reading this week. Got a lot to talk about today, so make sure you go ahead and let us know what's going on in the chat section of the channel so that we can interact with you guys. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And next we have Chris, BostonChris.
Hey, what's up? Just this weekend. Actually, this weekend was pretty cool for me. This past week, I picked up a whole bunch of books. I'm gonna make a video about it. And a more personal thing. My sister-in-law, very soon, I think probably by the end of the weekend, is going to be having her son. So I will be having my new nephew born in about a week. So very excited about that.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, man.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
And if I was prepared, I'd have the applause thing going, but I don't have that up, so pretend I'm clicking that. Oh, here we go. There you go. All right. And normally we have Justin as well with us, so he had to step away. He's doing some moving and things, so he'll be back next week. So we got a big show today. We got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, what we normally do is talk about some books that we're looking forward to that are coming out mañana. So we're going to talk about that, but kind of quickly because we want to get to talking about Comic Bento and everything that Jeff wants to wow us with. So looking forward to that. And of course, the big thing that happened over the weekend was San Diego Comic-Con. So we're going to talk about that. There was a whole shit ton of releases and trailers and just everything from comics, movies, Netflix, toys. So there's a lot there. So we want to get to those things quickly. And then, of course, The Killing Joke, something that I saw yesterday. I know there's a couple people who are looking forward to, or maybe not looking forward, but curious about what I thought of the movie. So we'll touch on that as well. But first, let's get into the books that we're looking forward to for tomorrow. It is Tuesday, so Wednesday. New books. It's important to touch on that quickly. So, you want to give it a go there, Mr. Edwin?
Sure. I'll give it a go. Well, lately, if anybody knows me, been watching. I've been sticking with DC. They've just been doing very good with what's been going on. Although I do have an image title, I'll start out with that. I think it's Mechanism #1. I'm really looking forward to that. The synopsis is pretty interesting. And I feel like you can't really go wrong when it comes to an image #1. So besides that, I think I got confirmation that TMNT #60 comes out this week. We talked a little bit about that last week, and it was just some kind of error on the comic book website. So it was not last week, but it actually comes out this week. And if you guys are not checking out TMNT, definitely check it out. It's such a good read. But I'm also looking forward to Detective 937, that continuation with the weird collaboration with Clayface, and now that they have all these Bat Army people that they're fighting against. Yeah. With it was Cassandra Cain's dad, right? I'm thinking Lois Lane's dad. It's Cassandra Cain's dad, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And then Nightweek #1, and sticking with DC, I'm definitely going to check out Red Hood and the Outlaws Rebirth #1. One of the things I've noticed is that they do like a Rebirth #1 of everything, and then like the next week the actual #1 comes out. So I didn't really pick up on that before. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and that's what I'm looking to check it out.
Cool. Very good. All right, Chris, Buckshot.
Yeah, he touched on a couple of mine. Like, I'm definitely looking for Detective Comics 937. I am also looking forward to, and I know a lot of people have mixed reviews about Civil War, but Civil War #4. I started that story. I'm going to finish it. So at this point, we'd be about halfway through because I think it's 7 total. So I'm definitely going to pick up #4. I want to try to see if I can continue with that connecting cover. And then just, I didn't really see anything that really grabbed my attention from Image that much. The Turtles series sounds pretty cool, so I might end up picking up that as well. And then if you guys don't know, and this is going to be kind of a tough one to find, but Unleash #2 or 4 is supposed to be coming out. And it already, I guess, has a movie.
Uh-oh.
I think he was going to say there's probably movie talk already.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
Which that's like almost every new comic book that comes out now. There's movie talk.
Did I just? I guess I dropped out. I don't know if you guys heard, but I was saying about so I said Batman. Sorry, Detective 937, Civil War #4, and I also wanted to touch on the Unleash #2 or 4. Definitely want to pick up. It's probably going to be really scarce. The first one, I guess was an instant success. Part of that, I think it's a movie or I'm almost positive there's a movie going to be made of it, something like that, something along those lines, or TV shows, one of the two. So, definitely one. If you see it in the store, pick it up. I mean, if you're buying books to flip, pick it up and flip it, because the first one, I think, right after Wednesday, I mean, as soon as it came out, it was like $15 book right off the shelf. So, pick it up.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I saw the list, and I emailed my shop because I could add, say, hey, can you add this to my pull or put this book in my box? And I asked for Unleashed too, and she said, it's funny, we didn't get that on our ship list for this week. Mm-hmm. So she's like, I put in the order. I don't know if we're going to get it or when, but if it does happen to come in, we'll put it in your box. So. Hopefully, I'm not getting it this week, based on what they're telling me, but hopefully I'll get it at some point.
Other side note too, just in case there's like younger people in there, like it's not for kids. If you're one of the people that likes to buy comics, like, hey, I got a new comic, you want to share? Like, don't. Do not share that with your kids. You'll traumatize them, trust me. It's not for kids. Very violent book.
That's funny. Yeah, speaking of not for kids, there's Tommy #1. That one's pretty much sold out. I think it's Tommy the Homicidal Maniac. There's a few different covers for that, yeah. And there's a cool, like, glow-in-the-dark one, and I'll show you a picture of it.
Not a gimmicky cover, huh?
I know. It's funny, man. They're making a comeback with all those gimmick covers.
Oh, yeah, I love them, man.
See that? Look at that.
Oh, wow.
Keep them coming.
The Misfit logo.
Yeah. So it looks like a lot of fun. Pet Rabbit Serial Killer. How can you not go wrong with that?
Weird.
But it's sold out on. This is from Midtown. It's sold out on theirs already. It's a $9.99 book too. So.
Yeah. It's probably what, a one shot, or is it going to be ongoing? Do you know?
It looks like a one shot. I don't know too much about it.
How many pages is that for $9.99?
Let me see.
I mean, my goodness, that's a lot. That's like a graphic novel.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's a Deadpool book.
All right.
It doesn't say much about it. It just gives the synopsis and stuff. So.
Does it say just give us your money at the bottom there? And
I know. You want it, pay it.
Or we'll send Tommy after you.
No, I tried that. People don't go for
it. Selling by fear, right? All right, so a couple others I'm looking forward to is BEK, Black Eyed Kids, #4. That's been a good one for me. Usual Suspects, Old Man Logan, Spider-Gwen. Outcast is coming out. Jupiter's Legacy is good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Titans. I didn't read the Rebirth. I have it. I just haven't read it yet, but I'm probably going to check out the #1 for that as well. And the other one, I'm a guy. It's Grim Fairy Tale Swimsuit Special.
Oh, wow.
And the reason I like that, it's a Jamie Tyndall cover on that.
Yep.
I love Tyndall's work, so check that one out.
There's a deep story in those books. Actually, could have a really good story. I just know the artwork is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So no, those should be good. Do you have any that you're looking forward to, Jeff, for tomorrow?
You guys. Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky in that I'm a retailer, so I've read actually most of the ones you just mentioned.
Okay.
So, but there's a lot of ones like I've been reading Civil War II as well. I think it's actually been a pretty interesting story. I'm not sure if I'm willing to come down on the side of good or bad yet, but definitely interesting. It's definitely holding my attention. I read the Titans #1.
Okay.
Because I've been loving the way that Wally West has been woven back into the DC universe. I think that's awesome. What else was in my pile? Oh, I can't remember. Spider-Gwen, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So yeah, there's lots of cool stuff out this week. Actually, it's not bad.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a good and a varied selection too. It's not like there's a lot of Batman or a lot of Deadpool. It's a lot of different things. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, well, there's always a lot of Deadpool. So
True. That's kind of a given these days, right?
Yeah, they sprinkle them in.
Yeah, even when it's not a Deadpool, it still ends up being Deadpool in there somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're gonna milk the crap out of that.
Yeah, exactly. that cow is running dry, I think, maybe eventually here. But let's talk about Comic Bento now that we talked about our books. I'm really curious to kind of get into that with you. So you want to take it away? Tell for people who aren't familiar with Comic Bento, I guess who you are first, and then what you want to say about Comic Bento itself. So
totally.
To kind of get into that with you. So you want to take it away? Tell for people who aren't familiar with
So yeah, my name is Jeff. I'm the
what you want to say.
I don't really have a title, I guess, but I'm the guy that runs Comic Bento. Picks the books, puts them in the boxes, and ships them to your house, because that's pretty much what it is. Comic Bento is a blind box service. You can see some of the boxes right in the background here, behind Jesse. It's a blind box service like a Loot Crate or a Nerd Block, except you know how they're full of junk? We're not full of junk. We are exclusively graphic novels. So if you you get for $20 plus shipping, or if you want to get a longer plan, you can bring it down cheaper, that kind of thing. But for $20 plus shipping, you get 4 to 5 graphic novels in the box based on a theme. We guarantee at least $50 worth of graphic novels every month for that $20 investment. But it usually works out to be higher, just depending on what we're doing. And we work with everyone from small indie publishers to Marvel and DC to Image and Dynamite, and we've done a great stuff with Valiant in the last little while. So it's a cool way to get. If you're a new comics fan, it's a cool way to get some good trades, some good ideas of what you might like, test out some stuff. And if you're a Wednesday warrior, like I suspect that you guys might be, you get some surprises in there that you probably would have, well, maybe overlooked on the store shelf. Stuff that you might have seen on the shelves and been like, maybe next time, or stuff you heard about that maybe you just didn't want to invest it in. But now, for a fraction of the price, you're getting the first volume of the graphic novel. Stuff like Faith, for example, from Valiant, was in our last box, and we actually got it 2 weeks before it hit the shelves. So our subscribers got that early. And it's one of the best reviewed, best rated comics of the last year. So it's given a lot of people a chance to check it out, and a lot of people who normally probably wouldn't check out that kind of book. When it's sitting in your hands, you're like, all right, I'll give it a try, and they're finding that they're loving it. So that's sort of the game plan with Comic Bento, is to introduce people to stuff, break them out of their comfort zone a little bit, and introduce them to stuff they may not have otherwise picked up.
Right.
Now,
Very
Jeff, let me ask you a question, because I was checking out the website, and the website is actually beautiful. You guys did a great job on that website. But so how does that work? Like, what if do you guys just put in any publisher, or what if I just want all DC, all Marvel, or whatever? How does that work?
Well, we decide the books for you. So What we do is we come up with our theme. The theme for this month, for example, is animal planets. So it's all books dealing with animals in some way or another, space alien animals or anthropomorphic animals, something like that. Last month we had They Robots was the theme, so it was all books dealing with varying stages of robotics and robots, stuff like that. And sort of once we have our theme picked out, we reach out to our publishers and we say, hey, we'd like to put this book in. Is that possible? If they say no, then we say, do you have other suggestions? And we work with them, and they send us along suggestions, and we read them. And we're like, okay, cool. And everyone gets the same books, so it's a shared experience that way. You can go online and talk about what you liked and didn't like. But there isn't a way to sort of guarantee that you get only DC or only Marvel, because, again, we want to sort of take people out of that comfort zone a little bit and be like, you know what, Dynamite does have some cool stuff to check out here, or Valiant's got some neat titles here, or even Boom or anyone like that. So
you're putting out titles that are relatively new over the past week to 2 weeks.
No, these are graphic novels, so they're.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. Like new graphic novels that have just been released over the past 2 or 3 weeks.
Some of them are brand new. Like I say, some of them we get before the street date. Some of them are brand new. Some of them are classic. We did a box 2 or 3 months ago. The theme was rewriting history, and we had Days of Future Past in that box.
Yes.
So we'll go with what's new and exciting, as well as introduce you to some classics. Like I say, it's sort of, there's no rules. It's whatever fits that theme that we think is a good book, a solid book, and is something you're going to enjoy. Like these aren't just kind of like, oh well, the theme is cars, so we'll just grab a bunch of books with cars and then throw them in a box and send them out there. These are curated books that we've taken the time to read, research, work with the publishers, and get them together in a cohesive package for you.
Okay.
Very cool. And sometimes you have somebody who does the curation, right?
Yeah.
It was a couple of months back. Who was it?
Gail Simone
Simone,
curated a box for us, which was really cool, because I didn't have to do a lot that month, which was great. I emailed her at one point and was like, Gail, we're getting really close to the deadline. You got to tell me what you think. And she's like, oh, I've lined everything up. Here you go. Oh, fantastic. Thanks. It's terrific. So yeah, she pitched some cool stuff, and we were able to get into some cool stuff as well because she had access to some other creators, and they were able to give like pull quotes for the box insert and stuff like that. So it's fun, and some of them, I'm actually, believe it or not, right now I'm working out the 2017 themes because we have to work in advance so that we can work with publishing schedules and stuff like that, and we're working to do have a lot more creator involvement next year too, which is going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, that sounds interesting. So how do you pick the themes? I mean, you said you're working into the next month. I mean, is it like a group of you? I know you're kind of helming that, but do you, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've got some really creative people that work in our offices. Our parent company is a comics publisher called Blind Ferret Entertainment. We do web comics and print comics and graphic novels, things like that. So we have a lot of creative people working in the office, and we also have a sister box called Board Bento, which is similar concept. It's a blind box service once a month, except you get 4 or 5 board games in it, which is kind of cool. So the guy that runs Board Bento is a guy by the name of Ryan Costello. He and I will sit down sometimes and bounce theme ideas off of each other and come up with ideas and things like that. Sometimes it's a theme that comes up because there's a cool movie happening or something, or I saw a trailer I saw the Justice League clip that came out from San Diego and was like, oh, we should do a theme about teams and teamwork and things like that. And it just kind of starts from there, and then you think, oh yeah, and it'd be cool to have this book in that, or this character in there, or this creator, and it kind of builds from there, and eventually what is going to work for the theme kind of works itself out, which is kind of cool. It's very organic that way.
Yeah, that's definitely cool. I remember you had a box right around the time that Terminator Genesis was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
That was like all like robots and like cool things. So I can see
that
how
that was
the news kind of leading towards a theme. So yeah. Yeah,
exactly. We try to keep an eye on sort of what's going on, what's hip, and what's cool, and try and include as much of that as we can. Sometimes it's we'll be like, hey, can we put this, Superman book in there? And they'll be like, no, because it's brand new and selling well. I'm not going to, like, come on, we got to pay like $30 for that. Well, I don't think our readers would really like that. So, but do you have another one that would fit in there and stuff like that? So there's a lot of give and take with it, which, again, makes it really organic and makes it kind of fun because it does eventually just boil down to 2 or 3 people sitting around talking about what's cool in comics. And being like, oh, well, that's amazing, or have you read this? No, I haven't. Awesome. And then eventually you're like, oh, right, and the box we have to put this in. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that definitely sounds cool. And type of conversation that I think any of us here on the panel would be, happy to join in on anytime. We have
exactly.
a question.
I'd love to hear some of your suggestions. You guys know what's going on for sure.
Right. Well, we have something here. AG Surfer, he's in the chat right now. He was saying, would you ever consider doing like a Golden Age box or a Silver Age box?
Absolutely. Recently, the closest thing we've done to that so far is last December we did throwbacks as our theme, and we did that. It wasn't like an all Silver Age or all Golden Age box, but we had the first volume of Youngblood in there from Image. So that's a definite throwback. We had a Marvel Masterworks book in each box. Yes.
I got the Captain America one, by the way. Very cool.
Very cool, yeah. That was the one that I pocketed for myself. And then we had from Dark Horse, actually, a really big, oversized hardcover called The Fifth Beatle. So in that regard, the throwback was actually the music that the book was about. So we like to play with the themes like that, but I'm a huge, Silver Age comics are pretty much what I buy when I go to conventions. I don't really buy anything else, just Silver Age, funny, ridiculous back issues kind of thing. So I would love to do a complete, Silver or Golden Age box. And I do have some plans to do some more sort of throwbacky stuff throughout the next few months, so hopefully we'll get some from that era in there too.
Nice. Yeah, I think that a lot of people would look forward to something like that. And one thing I like with the themes, because you kind of send a card or a teaser about it, and a lot of people try to guess what's going to be in the box.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the theme would be throwback. So it's it's specific, but just vague enough that you really have no clue. It's fun. It's still a surprise. So I like those cards that you guys put in there.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we it's fun for people to be guessing and sort of involved in the process and the surprise and stuff. But at the end of the day, we want you to know why we included the books we included, mainly so that you understand that these aren't books that we just. Because I'll be totally honest, there's 2 big perceptions about blind boxes at this point. One is that they're stocked with junk, and in our case, a big misconception is that we're buying quarter bin or remaindered books that didn't sell and just kind of jamming them in there. Right. And I cannot emphasize enough, no, we work really hard to get quality books, and sometimes in some cases, I'll be perfectly honest, in some cases even printing them ourselves.
Oh, wow.
To ensure that there's enough quantity to get them in the box. So I mean, we're taking the risk, putting the work in, and making sure that you're getting good stuff. So.
I'm glad you cleared that up, because I was actually wondering about that myself. So it is good that you guys are not just putting throwaway books or anything like that, but really mixing it up. I like the idea. I mean, it's kind of like a grab bag, so to speak. And I also actually like the idea that again, going back to your website, that it's pretty much almost like half price for retail, because I can't stand paying retail for a graphic novel when in some cases they're even more than if you bought the individual issues. And it's just, I just really like the whole concept that you guys have going on.
Thanks. Yeah, and it's one of the reasons that we went with graphic novels as opposed to issues was you're getting a bigger chunk of the story, right? Because most of them are between 4 and 6 issues, that kind of thing, and so you're getting a real taste of what's going on. If we were throwing issues in there, then suddenly there'd be, issue number 3s of 5-part stories, and there might be an issue number 1 here or something like that. And yeah, I mean, at the most, the books are going to cost you $5 if you're on the monthly plan, which is the $20 a month plan. And the longer plans, you get them down even shorter. There was a guy at the end of last year that actually, completely out of the blue, we did not ask him to do it, went through and tabulated the MSRP of all the books we had sent out over the year versus what he had paid, and he paid like 40% of the price over the course of the year. So,
Wow.
it's worth it, and it's like I say, it's fun. It's something different, and it's not just your average sort of blind box where you open it up and you're like, oh, cool, a sticker and a Funko and a pin and what's on TV,
Yeah. I actually like that, again, because, with so many comic books that are coming out, and in a lot of cases you have to wait a whole month to see what's going on in the next issue. That's just a really good idea, because I actually didn't read a single Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Batman until I had all 6 issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually glad that I did that, because I burnt through all 6 issues actually over this past weekend. And it was such a fun read, just like what everybody was talking about. I mean, it was great. Now, had I got that individually, I still would have picked them up, but I would have easily forgotten, almost what had happened a month or 2 months prior. So definitely a good move on y'all's part.
Oh yeah, I mean, I totally do the same. I've actually got those 6 issues sitting on my table over there to read this weekend. So.
Read it, man. It's an awesome read.
But I'm like you guys, and you guys probably have the same problem that I do, where you're reading so much stuff, and then a new issue comes out, and you're really excited for it, but you can't remember why, because you can't remember what happened in the last issue, and so you have to go back and reread that, and you're like, whatever. So with the graphic novels, at least you're getting a good chunk of it, and you're getting a complete story. I mean, as complete as comics get, anyways.
Yeah. Exactly, right. I stepped away for a second. Somebody in the comments mentioned when you said the 5th Beatle, so I wanted to show that book and just give an example. They're not all the floppies. This is it here. It's a hardcover. It's a big book, so you're getting, not just, the floppy trades or collected editions. They send these too, so...
And what was cool with that book, actually, was, first of all, that's a $50 hardcover, just to brag for a second.
Yes.
But what was cool with that was the Vivek, the author, was actually, he's a really nice guy, was a really big supporter of what we were doing. We shipped him a couple cases of the book, and he signed them for us, and so we randomly slipped them into people's boxes for that month. So we're always looking for little stuff like that to do, to make the boxes a little bit unique and give it a little bit of a did I get this kind of feel to it too.
Right. That would be fun to search for, or see who got it, even if you didn't. Wait for those, the unboxings and stuff to see if somebody else did, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and a couple of them popped up, and other ones I was like, oh, why didn't you show the picture? But yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. Nice. We do have a question here, where I saw it, from Jeff Johnson. He says, if you can remember...
Jeff Johns.
Yeah, I wish it was Jeff Johnson. No, Jeff Johnson is our, unofficial mayor for the community here. But what are some of the most popular themes that you guys have had over the past, couple of years, if you can remember?
Yeah, I remember.
There's been quite a few.
Yeah, no, we've been doing this for about 2 years now, so there's a finite amount. But I can say that the throwbacks one that I mentioned was very, very popular. People really liked that one. We did one called The Feminine Mystique that was all female characters, female-led books. That was very, very popular. It included like Ms. Marvel in it, and we did the one that Gail did was called Masks, and it dealt with characters all either physically wearing masks or like we got really esoteric with it. It was like the masks we wear kind of stuff, and
Right.
and that had some cool books in it too. I was really actually excited about the robots books that we just wrapped up with, and the Animal Plants one that we're doing now is pretty cool because it features. There's just so many like little neat things about all the books in the one of the books is by a good friend of mine, and we printed it ourselves, so it's kind of like our own exciting championing of independent comics, as well as there's a couple of big name books in there. We've got an exclusive cover in there. We've got
Nice.
XYZ, this kind of thing. So it's been pretty cool. What did we do earlier? We did Rewriting History was another big one that was good. That was the one with the Days of Future Past in it. Honestly, I wish I could tell you what we have coming up, because there's things are ramping up really well over the fall.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, and we actually because we do a set number every month of boxes, and then we set aside X number just in case of boxes get lost in the mail or someone has a damage or something like that. So a couple months after, when we're sure that everyone's got their books and everything's cool, we put those extras up in a store, which is, you can find it on ComicBento.com, and you can actually buy the extra boxes while they last, kind of thing. So you can go there and see sort of every theme we've ever had, as well as what was in the box, how much it was worth, that kind of stuff, and based on whether it's available or not, how popular it was.
Very cool.
And actually, now that I just remembered this, they are on sale right now. We're doing a San Diego sale that's lasting till tomorrow. $10, any box in the store.
Wow.
So you
That's a good deal.
could buy that box with the Fifth Beatle in it, with the Fifth Beatle, which is a $50 hardcover, plus 3 other books for $10.
Oh, that's a good deal.
Yeah, that's a really good deal. I have to check that out. Yeah, for sure.
I'm glad I remembered that.
Yeah. What I'll do is when this is uploaded, because this is live right now, I don't want to. I don't know if I can add it to the description. Maybe I can, but I don't want to not pay attention. But what I'll do is put a link to that in the description afterwards. So anybody who's watching this later on can shoot on over there and see what's still available and pick up what you want. So I'll make sure to put that.
I think I have a distracting question for you, Jesse. Mr. Unknown Comics Guy asks, how did Bento start?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Origin story.
The secret origin. That's right. Well, I was in my lab and reading a Flash comic, and suddenly was struck by a bolt of lightning. And I was like, we could put these in boxes. That's it, Well, the sort of middle-length story behind it, there's a long story and a short story. The middle-length story is the interesting one, though, is that for about 5 years, we used to have a brick-and-mortar comic store out here called The Fourth Wall. And I was the general manager, and one of my favorite things about running a comic store was when people would come in and they would be hungry for stuff. You know what I mean? They wouldn't just come in and be like, yeah, give me Batman, and then leave. They'd want to know what's good, what's interesting, and I would sit and talk with them and, chatting with people about what they like and recommending stuff and kind of getting that back and forth with them. As the world turns, so does the retail business, and the store, we decided to put it as more of an online entity, renamed it Comic Pull, still exists out there. So we don't have a brick and mortar storefront anymore, but I was kind of missing the whole back and forth and interaction with the customers and what are you reading, what do you like, this kind of thing, and that was around the time that the blind box thing really started taking off, and we kind of thought to ourselves, hey, we could copy that. So we we sat down one day and figured out, okay, what can we get the books for? How can we make this work? I reached out to a bunch of contacts at Diamond and different publishers and stuff, and was like, okay, let's give this a shot and see what happened. And we went from, in the first month, 175 subscribers. By the end of the third, we were at 3,000. So people really responded to it, and that was like 2014. So people have really responded to it, and people really dig it, and we've been going strong ever since. And these days it's about what can we do next to take it to that next level, and again, give the longtime reader something cool to read that they may not have otherwise checked out, as well as provide something to the new comics reader that can get them started on the hobby and started in the universe and stuff like that. Because let's be honest, and it used to frustrate me to no end when I was running a comic store. Millions upon millions of people go and see Avengers movies. And they love those movies, and they love those characters, and they want more of them, and they want to be, involved in their universes and stuff like that. But the comics industry is so bad at reaching out to that casual fan and saying, "Come in, be welcoming," And so this is a cool way to kind of jump over that hurdle, I think.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I used to work for a franchise, and one of the best ways really to get new customers, I'll just put it out there. I used to work for Jimmy John's a long time ago, and one of the things that we would do was every morning, actually just after the store had opened, was we would get platters of samples, go to a business, drop them off, set up little brochures and flyers and stuff like that, and that's kind of one of the strategies that we use to bring people in. So again, like with the comic books, I mean, a digital comic book doesn't cost anything.
Totally.
And you can totally just give that for free to people, or just mail out stuff. I mean, you can do it. It's just do you want to do it? So yeah, I think you're definitely right on that.
You got hundreds of thousands of millions of people buying Deadpool on iTunes. Why not whip a couple of digital comics at them as part of their purchase? Show them that the movie doesn't end there and keep going. One of the things that we did with the store that was a good success for us was we would actually go to the local movie theater on opening night for all the big comic book movies, and just set up a sort of pop-up shop in the lobby, and just let people know that there's more to it than just what they're going to see on the screen kind of thing, and that really, really helped us, especially around like Free Comic Book Day and stuff like that. And people got to know us that way, and it was pretty good for building community, which is I think the key to a vital and healthy comics industry more than anything.
Nice. Yeah.
And every now and again, I get to see a free movie, so nothing wrong with that.
That definitely helps.
That's a good idea, though, too. Just because, like you say, like a lot of people who are into comics, or who just are into comics, always we know where to find them, and then you get those people that just go for the movie, and then one of the biggest criticisms that they have is just that I don't know any of these stories, or
I didn't get that, or
or even beyond that, just like or someone who's like kind of like on the fence, wants to jump into it but doesn't really know, and they just think that I have to go back and buy all this to understand the whole story. And it's just like that's where something like this would just jump right in. It's like you can catch up and learn, or just find something completely new that you didn't even know about.
Years and years and years ago, I did an interview with Kevin Smith, the film director, and it was about a comic that he was writing at the time. I think it was his Batman thing that never got finished, for a change. And he said to me that years ago, someone had said to him that comics are all middle story, right? Like, the origin of Spider-Man. There's never going to be an end because they got to keep making this stuff. So it's all middle story. So I always used to tell people, like, because they'd come in and they'd be like, "Do you have Spider-Man #1? Because I'd really like to start at the beginning." And I'd be like, "Yeah, me too." And stuff like that. And I'd be like, "Listen, you know who Peter Parker is. You know the spider, bite, ow, thwip, thwip, you're good. Just grab a book and go. Everything else you can fill in backwards, forwards, sideways, until, you're blue in the face. Just pick up a book and get into it. And I always told people to look at comic book continuity and stuff like that as a river, right? There's one main river, and then sometimes it breaks off and does its own thing, and it might rejoin the main river, or it might peter into nothing. And you can't kind of treat it like a TV show where you watch one episode, the season's done, you wait for the next one. You know,
and I think that's where they get that from. It's just, because I mean, you got to figure a movie fan going, someone who likes movies going for the first time is going to think of it like, all right, so this is one self-contained thing, and it's like, if you really want to know the bigger story of what they were talking about, start reading, or start just looking some stuff up, and like, I don't even know where to start. Just pick up a book and go.
Just do it, exactly, and and comic book fans, I'm one of them, have been for my entire life. I literally learned to read thanks to the Archie comics my mom would give me in the store to shut me up while she bought groceries. I've been reading them my entire life, and comic book fans are our own worst enemy every day. And I would see them come in with people who were like, I saw, there'd be the person who just saw Batman, the Dark Knight Rises or whatever, and the person who was the comic book fan, and the comic book fan would be like, oh, no, you don't want to read that. You want to start, you have to know all this to be able to understand that and all this. And I'm going, oh, no, dude, just let them pick up the book they want,
It's that classic cringeworthy comic book guy thing, right? Like,
exactly, and you're just like, oh, I want to jump in and help, but I'm Canadian, so I can't be rude. It's just.
I mean, just because you got to figure. For me, growing up, the biggest series that I used to go with was X-Men, and I mean, I got lucky in was it around 91, they put that new X-Men series with Jim Lee and everything, so I had a starting point, but then there was so many other stories from way back whenever. It was just it's just one of those deals you're not going to get every Uncanny X-Men that you need, or just the first series of it. So just like you said, just start off and just go from there. It's just as far as it's concerned, it doesn't matter if it's issue 1000, issue not any 1000, but if it's issue 212 or if it's issue 3, you know what I mean? You're starting the story off some way. You just continue it as you go, and if you want to go backwards, go for it.
And let's be honest, if you really want to, through the collected editions, trade paperbacks, whatever, you can read the entire run, especially with digital today. A buddy of mine just did this. You can read the entire run, all 750 some odd issues of Amazing Spider-Man, but I got to tell you, there's a lot of crap in there. I love Spider-Man, but there's a lot of junk in there.
No joke, I actually have a friend that's doing that as we speak. He's on issue in the early 200s, so he's literally... Man.
How long has he been reading it for, though? Did he just start a month ago? Or?
I think he started at the beginning of the year.
So
so he's already bogged down. Yeah, I get that. He hasn't even gotten the Sins Remembered yet.
For the first volume.
And you gotta just, I mean, I don't even know how you begin to, how many books a week would you do? I mean, if you want to get through it in a reasonable pace, it's just it's a lot. It's a lot of reading. It's a lot, and like you said, there's so many filler issues. I mean, even with good books, even where you have a good story, they still manage to throw a couple where the story really doesn't move.
Oh yeah, and that's why let's be honest. That's why #1 issues do so well as they do in today's climate.
Mm-hmm.
Is because people can look at that and be like, oh, I don't have to read 700 issues. I can just start here. This is fine. Right. Even though, those of us that have been reading comics for a long time are like, this says #1, but it's really just number 15 of what was happening before. It's really not a #1. So.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
See, the thing is a lot of people don't understand our love for comics, and these people that are watching these movies are trying to get into it, but they don't realize that we didn't have friends back in the day, so that's why we got into comics.
Yep.
We just had our only friends were a handful of nerds that read comic books also, and that was it. So we didn't have no friends. So our friends were the comic books. So we became one with the comic books. So that's why we have this love for it.
And like all friends, sometimes those comics did things and said things that were like, what? I don't want to talk to you for a little while. I need a break from you.
What?
I mean, I can't count how many times I've stepped away and come back to certain books, or just what, I'm not, X-Men's going away for a little bit. Let me pick up Teen Titans for a little bit. Oh,
yeah.
You know?
Dude, I quit smoking easier than I quit comics.
You always go back. There's always a big story that, like, I mean, because that was me for a long time, especially like in college and stuff. It's just like, you know, you get a book and you study and everything like that. You don't have the money, number one, because you're broke. Number two, you study it and everything like that, and then it's just like, you know, there's new big crossover. Everybody's involved. It's like, oh, I gotta get back to that. And it's like, I haven't read a comic in like 6 months at that point, and so it's just like, I don't know what anyone's even about, like what's going on, you know, with this, you know, whole deal. And then all of a sudden, just like, all right, I'm back into it. And then, you know, you go strong for another, like, you know, however many months, and then the next, you know, next big story comes out, and you're just like, all right. And then next thing you know, you're full-fledged back into it, buying, you know, 6-7 books a week.
You got a pull list, and you're building boxes, and you're, yeah.
And the shop owner's almost like, I knew you'd be back.
Yeah. I kept your seat warm.
Yeah, exactly. And you're just like, oh. But it's a good thing. I'd rather have that going on than be involved in anything, you know. I mean, that's the one thing I can't say about comics, as much as people be like, oh, they're a waste of time. You know, it's nothing destructive. It's actually something that, you know, you're using your imagination. You're sitting, you're quiet. You're not doing anything wrong. So, you know, let someone read comics. Just, you know, you see someone reading a comic, you know that's someone that's not going to rob you later on.
Yeah, more than likely, yeah. Unless they're reading Punisher, and then you got to worry. But because you never know.
Somebody posted a picture up in one of the Comic Book Fanatics Facebook thing that we're a part of, and it was like this picture, and it said, buy your kids comic books, that way they won't have money to buy drugs later on in life.
That makes sense.
That was hilarious, yeah.
That makes sense. I get that. I get that. Yeah, it's one of those things, you know, like you say, as soon as you think you're out, they pull you back in.
Yep.
And, I mean, I read comics consistently up through the 90s until when just about all of us stopped reading comics because they just imploded, right?
Yep.
And then the book that changed it all for me was Preacher.
Okay.
Because I was in a comic store, I guess it'd be like 2000, like late 2000, something like that, and hadn't bought a comic in like 3 or 4 years, has sort of not, like, kind of been paying attention, but not really that into it.
Yep.
And because, you know, girls. And then went into a comic store with a buddy who was still reading comics, and saw this book on the shelf, Welcome Back, Frank.
Yep.
And I was like, Punisher, I know Punisher, and I picked it up, and it was a graphic novel, and it was self-contained, and it was one story, and I was like, it's $20, fuck it.
Story.
I'll give it a shot. And it blew me away. And I was like, this is what I remember being so great about comics. What else have these guys done? Yeah, exactly. It welcomed me back. And so what else have these guys done? Boom, I pick up Preacher, and I'm like, I didn't even know comics could be like this. This is unbelievable. Yeah. And just, I was back every day that week to buy the next trade to finish off Preacher, and it was like, by then I was in Transmetropolitan, and I'm back into the X-Men, and I'm reading the Superman, and I'm, you know, and like you say, next thing you know, you got a pull list this long, and you're buying new bookshelves.
Yeah, and then the shop owner was like, you might want to slow down a little bit. I mean, you...
Yeah, what the shop owner is telling you that.
You have like, how you gonna read with no lights? Go pay some bills.
And you're like, ah.
What are bills?
So, yeah, I got candles. I'm fine.
Exactly. Should I buy this can of soup or this book? I don't know.
Exactly.
You know, it's funny that you say that because what got me, and Jesse, I know we're kind of getting off topic a little bit, but one of the things that really got me back into comic books was watching The Walking Dead. Mm-hmm. And right after The Walking Dead, you had what was the show? Comic Book Men.
Yep.
Watching those two shows like 4 years ago or so is really what got me back into comic books, because I picked up a Walking Dead trade, I read it, and I was like, whoa, and that was my I'm back scenario with comic books.
I'll tell you a funny story about that. The early issues of The Walking Dead, right? They're like the modern holy grails. They're the only comics that have come out in the last 20 years that are actually worth something now, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm in the comic store one day, and I see this little book on the shelf says The Walking Dead. And I go, I like zombies. Buy it, $3, no big deal. A couple weeks later, the second issue comes out, third issue, and then in the third issue of that series, he meets up with his family, right? Spoilers, I guess. And so after reading that third issue, I put it down and was like, he's found his family. This isn't going to go anywhere. I stopped buying it.
Story's done.
I have a story about that. It's one of my big horror stories. As far as, like, we all have a comic horror story where it's just like you had your hand on a book, you weren't feeling it, you just let it go. Well, all right, so Walking, and I'm sure people have already heard me tell this like 1,000 times, but so Walking Dead #1, I'll never forget it. You know, I walked in the shop, saw it. I liked the cover. I thought the title was cool. I opened it up, and this is me being, you know, young and snobby about comics, and I opened it up, black and white, and I was like, I don't like black and white comics. Put it right back. Put it right back. Didn't think twice about it, and then all of a sudden, TV show. It's popular. I actually watched the show, and I'm like, oh shit, this is awesome. And now it's just like, don't even think about the. You can get even the trades, the big like thick trades. Those are expensive too.
Yeah, they're $50-$60.
Yeah, so it's just like you know, comic horror story.
Jeff, do you still have your Walking Dead #1? Just curious.
No, I actually ended up. I sold it. I got like $1,200 for it. So it was unslabbed. Yeah, it was unslabbed. It was I'd read it a few times, kind of thing. So I got a good deal on it, and I sold it. But because I like agonized over whether I should sell it, right? Because you're always like, but what if tomorrow's the day it doubles? And I'm like, but it's already $1,200. Like, fine, here, I'll just
pay $3 for it.
Exactly. I made $1,197 profit. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Then you can just buy it again in 20 years when I sell it again for like $10 or $15.
Yeah, exactly. Probably the same copy, right? Yeah.
Hey, have you guys ever considered doing a just kind of changing the subject a little bit, a digital box or a digital curation for a month?
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, that's come up a couple times where we're like, but it's more along the lines of how do we do that and make it sort of different than like. It'd almost be easier for us just to partner with a Comixology and be like, we will write you a blog once a month that recommends books to people, because there's nothing to get in the mail. There's no tactile thing. There's no stuff like that. What we've done in the past is we've worked with publishers and given away credit in their stores for digital comics.
Right.
So, like, you got this book from Valiant, and you also got a $10 credit in their store to go and download the next trade or whatever you want, kind of thing. So we've kind of worked digital comics in conjunction with the box, but never done an all-digital box per se. And again, it's not because we don't like digital comics or don't want to. It's just more along the lines of we just haven't quite figured out how to execute it yet, to make it work. So. These are all things that as we move along, one day hopefully it'll hit us and we'll be like, oh, that's it. We'll just okay, I got it, and then away we go. Or a platform will approach us and want to do a partnership, like, the Humble Bundle type thing or something like that. But yeah, right now we've used those as sort of add-ons as opposed to the central focus of the box. Because the central focus is to give you something cool for your shelf.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I filled up my shelf over here with stuff for sure. So, yeah, what you were talking about before, one thing that I love about it is, we're talking about, sort of the new, the new reader or the person new to comics and kind of giving them the horizons. But, I've been, great that I was out for a while, but I've been reading for quite some time. And you kind of get in your comfort zone, right? There's like a certain title or a certain character or even a certain publisher that you're like, okay, I know I'm going to like this, so this is what I'm going to get. And it really helps to broaden the horizons for those people who have been reading a long time, too. And that's one thing that, I've done so many times with this box is, it's like something I probably never would have considered picking up, or I would have walked past it, on New Comic Day, and, I'm reading this, and I'm like, holy shit, this is awesome. I'm going to get volume 2 or whatever. So it's led to definitely some really awesome reading for me. So
well, that's awesome.
I never would have read otherwise. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's like the #1 goal of what we do. So that makes me really happy to hear because, like you say, you've been reading forever, I've been reading forever, we've all been reading forever, but there's always more. you're never gonna read every comic. So even even if you've read or know of a book that's in a Comic Bento, hopefully it'll bring you down like a memory lane or something like that, or expose you to something new. Like I go back to that Youngblood trade. When was the last time anyone read Youngblood?
Oh my God.
But but in the '90s we were all like, Youngblood, yes.
This is awesome. Blood.
Right. So now I pick that up and I'm like, if I was in the store, I'd be like, oh, Youngblood, I remember that, and then I'd put it back down. But if it's sitting in front of me, it's part of this, I'd be like, Youngblood, I love that book, and I'm going to reread it, have it on my shelf, and, away I go kind of thing.
Yeah.
For sure. A lot of people don't know, but that was the first Image title ever published. They thought it was Spawn, but it wasn't. It was actually
Malibu. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, good old Rob.
Yeah.
Ushering in a new age.
That's right. The rock star artist, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, for real, man.
There's something about that guy. He's either got to be like I figure he gives really good hugs. Because you would be hard-pressed to find anyone who will be like, yeah, I'm a big Rob Liefeld fan. But the dude always has work.
Yeah.
He's always getting books at, DC or Marvel or Image or whatever. So...
And he's always swiping one of his own covers, it seems like.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he gives a lot of people hope, though. Like, if you, especially in the beginning, if you couldn't really draw proportions right, man, he'd be like, shit, look at this, I can do this. And all of a sudden, you come to find out that, he's the one and only. I think they realize that, like, he's probably like just the guy that just won't leave, and they're just like, we don't want to pay you, but you're already on the staff.
You're already here.
You're only in the basement waiting for his stapler to be returned.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what, we'll give you some covers for a while, see what you can do. If you do good, you get a page.
Yeah.
No story stuff, no interiors.
You do really good, we'll give you Hawkman.
I like Rob Liefeld, but his early stuff. Him and Eric Larson, I think, it just really fell off over the years. They're nowhere near what they used to be when they first started.
Well, what they didn't do, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. I don't know these guys. It's nothing personal. It's just my opinion. But they didn't adapt. Jim Lee adapted. Todd McFarlane adapted. Not necessarily even like their art styles or storytelling styles, but like what they do within the industry, they adapted. Whereas Eric Larson and Rob Liefeld are still doing the same thing that they did 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. They're just a lot crankier about it now.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Mr. Unknown Comics guy, and I kind of agree with this. We all kind of hate on Liefeld, but he is a guilty pleasure. He's the guy that we all love to hate. It's like
Yeah, everybody shits on that poor guy. It's just like, I mean, if nothing else, he has the ultimate last laugh on everybody. It's just like, you can shit me all you want. Yeah. You can draw better than me. I get paid lots of money to do this. You're standing in line to get me to autograph you in New Mutants '98, and I'm going to charge you $50 on top of it and tell you how shitty my art is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I'm on the other side of this table. You realize that? So it's and that, regardless of how everyone wants to look at it, he's still like one of the most influential guys to come out, in the modern age. Like, you can't deny that. So that's 100% accurate. Guilty pleasure, but.
And it's distinctively their art too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of which, we can segue. I think I found a way to segue into the con situation because I met Rob Liefeld I met him twice at comic book conventions, and I've heard some stories about him, and I know this doesn't need to be a Rob Liefeld rant, but I've heard stories like the guy puts on a show in front of people, but behind closed doors, outside of the public eye, he can be a total douche. And the very first time I went to meet him, I was really excited. He was one of the main people. I mean, because I'm kind of a Liefeld fan. I mean, I think me, along with everybody else, has New Mutants 85 through 100. Sure. I mean, every time I come across copies on the cheap, I'll buy multiple copies just because I know they're worth a little, more than $1 or so. But, and anyways, the guy, wasn't at his booth for very long. I mean, he was there for like, maybe an hour and a half, and I don't know if he just got all his commissions and then left. But when the guy left, the guy was gone for like 2, 3, almost 4 hours, and it was gone so long that I just couldn't stay because I had things to do that day, and I didn't end up meeting him. I ended up meeting him the next time he came here to Houston. But I've heard stories about him, but he is a rock star. He is going to live off and milk the crap out of Deadpool, which I don't blame him because we all would.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can sit back and
imagine how much he made off the movie that just came out.
Yeah, man. So I mean, I don't blame him, but I really appreciate people like Ken Lashley, who's been on Comic Book Fanatics. I appreciate Walt Simonson and his wife Louise Simonson, and just everybody that has had this foundation established in the comic book industry, and still appreciate where they're at and where they're at now, and I just really basically those people that have a heart for everybody that pretty much loved your work and bought your work throughout the years.
Yeah, I've been working in this industry for about 10 years now, and I've met superstars to up-and-comers, and I have to honestly say 97% of the people in comics are good, decent, fun-loving, appreciative people. And then there's that 3% where you're just like, what are you doing here, man?
Yeah, just for the wrong reasons, right?
Yeah. Like it's cool that you want to come to the con and do commissions and sign people's stuff, but at least pretend like you're having a good time doing it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's what I hear about Neil Adams sometimes. He's just
Uncle Neil.
Oh my gosh.
there.
I love Neil so much. You guys have no idea. I've done.
Hit or miss type.
I have so many.
Did I see like hearts in your eyes or something just now?
You just call him Uncle Neil. Like that. There's got to be a story behind that. Like I'm definitely intrigued.
Well, like we do. So with our parent company, we do about 20 shows a year. Cons, so we're running around all the time going to cons, and Neil does every show under the sun. So after a while, you start to see the same people at every show. You get friendly with them. One of his sons did a lot of work for us for a while, kind of thing. So we got to know the family, and going to dinner with Neil Adams is like you just sit there like this. Because he's telling you all these stories of what it was like in the Carmine Infantino days and what's wrong with Marvel now and all this, and you're just like, this is awesome, and he is a guy, and he's also got like this, he calls it his science project, where he has done a lot of research into it, and he's sort of been for years now working on a graphic novel about it, but he has this, it's not an expanding Earth theory, but like a shifting of the continents theory, that it didn't happen the way science says it does, and there's it gets real conspiracy theory, and I be honest, I don't really understand it, but I just kind of sit there and I'm like, oh, okay, yes, very much so, yep, did you like Superman? And stuff like that, but he is just a blast to hang out with. He's truly the last of the old school comic guys who, just doesn't care and says what he wants about anything. And you can agree with him or disagree with him. He's just Neil.
Well, I think he is DC's Stan Lee. I can't really think of anybody else bigger than him, but when he was here in Houston a couple years ago, his line was non-existent. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that was because he was asking $20 a signature.
Yeah.
Everybody else was asking for $5 to it was free or just a donation or something to their nonprofit charity, whatever. But I kid you not, man, $20 a signature. He literally didn't have hardly anybody, and occasionally I would see one or two people, and that was it.
It's the real diehards that go and get autographs from him that have they've got those issues from the 60s and 70s and they really want him to sign them, or they've got the big omnibuses or stuff like that. And because he was actually a very early championer of creator rights, where he was one of the first guys to say no, you don't get to keep my artwork if you're just going to destroy it. You give it back to me. And he was one of the first guys that asked for royalties and things like that. So there was a lot of, as he would put it, he was a great pain in the ass at that time to both Marvel and DC. So Neil's always kind of had a head for business that way, where he's like, this is my work and I'm going to make a buck off of it, and because I know you're going to make a buck off of it if I don't. So
Fair enough. Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of where he comes from. Now, don't get me wrong. I think charging for autographs is ridiculous, but you know, at the end of the day, pretty much everything Neil says or does, you just go, it's Neil Adams. You know, who's gonna tell him no?
He does have, like, you know, when you start talking to him, kind of just a way to, like, his demeanor is very, like, calm and sort of quiet.
Like, he's a nice guy to talk to.
But
I mean,
he draws you in.
He
Yeah, he really draws you in.
If you're not getting stuff signed, he really is cool. Like, he will you know, just have a conversation with you as long as you want. Like, he's not bad. His wife kind of gets annoyed though. She's like, he's got other things to do, and you kind of distract him. Like, oh,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
But
he'll talk to you for days.
Yeah, she's kind of like more than, all right, buddy, moving on. You buying shit? No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, he's just like, yeah, you know, and then this, and then, you know, and then you'd be like, oh, cool.
So she's the reason why his prices are high. Oh, I get it now.
I'm not saying that for sure, but I just know that she's all about keeping the line moving, and he's just kind of like, yeah, I'll just talk to anybody. You know, he really doesn't mind. Like,
oh, he'll chat with you for days. Yeah, he's fun that way. I like him.
Joel is fun too.
Joel Adams?
Yeah. Did you guys have talking about cons? Did you guys have a booth at San Diego?
We did.
Con?
We did. We were in we were at booth 1231, which I can remember because it's 1231. So, and I didn't go down this year. I've been previous years, but I didn't go down this year. But when the guys got back, they said it was actually a really great show this year. And Hollywood kind of taking a step back actually really opened the place up a lot, and people were a lot happier to be there, shall we say. There was a better vibe around the con this year. I know sales were better this year. Some of the other retailers were kind of complaining that maybe they weren't, but for us it was great. A
Mile High went off on it.
Well, he does that every year.
Exactly.
He could make $1 million and he'd be like, hey, it's not about comics. Let me tell you about my Red Raven #1 from 1932. You know, that kind of stuff. He's just kind of, it's just, you know, but he's got every comic under the sun. If you ever need a back issue, Mile High is the place to go, right?
Yeah. That's the first thing they tell you. We have over 70,000 back issues.
Oh yeah. Have you ever seen their warehouse?
No, I've only ever seen pictures. I would love to step into it one day.
This is football fields, just football fields of shelves and boxes.
Is it like Indiana Jones and that?
Yeah.
That last.
Library.
Yeah. They have top men looking for your comic. Top men. You know? But yeah, San Diego was good, and I think a lot of it too had to do with the fact that this year, much like New York Comic Con's done for the last couple of years, they implemented a swipe system for your badge. So as you exited and entered the convention, you had to swipe in and out. And it's surprising considering that it's the biggest convention in the world. Mm-hmm. But literally up until last year, San Diego badges were just pieces of paper. So you could hand them off, and people could double swipe, like pass them back and get in and stuff like that. So they suspect that a few thousand people weren't able to sneak in this year, which is what led to it flowing a lot better.
Interesting. I hadn't considered. Yeah, I'm sure people do it, but I didn't really consciously think of people, you know, sharing the badge and sneaking in. That's a lot of people too.
Oh yeah. And there's tons of off-site things that happen too. So I mean, you could go down to San Diego for the week of San Diego Comic-Con and never set foot on the convention floor and have an amazing time. Like there's just so much going on within that sort of district. That it's a blast. I love that city.
Never been, but I hope to get out there at some point.
Something everyone should do, especially if you're a fan. Just something everyone should do at least once, just to check out. Although New York is probably just as big now.
That's what I heard. I heard New York is getting up there.
Yeah, New York I think had more guests last year than San Diego did, like you know, by volume, but. You know, I don't know if, you know, star power. I think they basically go hand in hand. I think San Diego has a little bit more of the movie crowd, just because by the time that New York comes around, it's like October or so. So it's a different crowd as far as the movies are concerned. But I mean, as far as the size goes, I heard it's like massive. So.
Yeah, and there's still a big focus on the comics and publishers in New York, which is nice. Like their Artist Alley is an entire building.
Yep.
It's great. It's wonderful, and like everyone, because the headquarters of a lot of the publishers are there, so like they bring in all the big names and stuff like that. So for a comics fan, New York is definitely the place you want to go. But San Diego is just kind of an experience unto itself. So
actually, I've heard that Chicago's a pretty good one too.
Mm-hmm. We did that one this year, and it was the first time we'd done it in a few years, and I had a good time in Chicago. Really, really, just people hungry for this stuff. Like people coming, like it felt like a convention from like 5 or 10 years ago, where people would just walk up and be like, "Here's some money. Can I have whatever you sell?" This kind of thing. You're like, "All right," but no, they were really, really receptive in Chicago. So. We've done a bunch of new shows this year, shows we haven't previously gone to. Like we did Salt Lake City in the spring, which was really interesting. And we just did Denver in mid-June. And Denver was a blast. Denver was one of the best shows of the year so far.
Well, Jeff, let me ask you a question, because my comic book shop, I found out that they've gone to San Diego at least the past 3 or 4 years, and I think that they said the past 2 or 3 years in a row they actually lost money.
Oh yeah, no one makes money.
But they keep doing it. So in saying that, how much would somebody expect to pay for a booth at San Diego Comic-Con?
Honestly, it depends the size of the booth. Depends how many years you've been going. Depends the sort of what your needs are at that booth. Like, do you need power? Do you need any kind of special trusses? Do you need anything hung from the ceiling? That kind of stuff. Wow. But I mean, do you need internet? Because you got to pay for internet too. But if you're looking at an average sort of 10 by 10 booth, you're probably between 7,500 to 10,000.
Wow.
And the waiting list to get into San Diego is, and that's just kind of a guess, but the waiting list to get into San Diego is about 15 years long. So,
are you serious?
Oh yeah. So if you don't go 1 year, your spot is gone, and you're not getting back in unless you know someone.
Wow.
So we've been doing San Diego for almost 10 years now, and it's kind of the only way that we've been able to do it is because we've been doing it as long as we have. And so we sort of, a few years ago, looked at it and went, okay, so, because, nobody makes money at San Diego. It's about being at San Diego. It's about exhibiting. It's about, showing off your stuff to the biggest audience possible in this industry. And that's from, the small fry guy selling back issues out of a long box right up to Marvel, DC, and their movie counterparts. It's about exposure, and it's about prestige of being there. So we looked at it as, okay, so we don't really need to go every year as our publishing selves, so we do it alternating now, where 1 year we go as Blind Ferret, 1 year we go as Comic Bento, 1 year we go as Blind Ferret, 1 year as Comic Bento, and that creates a little bit of a demand for what we are, because we're not there every year, and it allows us to have a little bit of space too. So it's interesting to have to kind of think of a convention in that term, but San Diego is just its own monster. So
that's interesting, man, because you're basically saying you have to pay to keep your spot.
Oh yeah, huge.
Every year. Wow.
Huge, and if you don't, it's gone. It's gone. So, and what's even more interesting about San Diego is that while you're there, while you're on the floor, you're actually in this weird bubble where you don't hear about anything that's happening at the convention until afterwards.
Interesting, yeah.
Like, you're not sitting there being like, oh my god, they just released Justice League footage, until 2 days later when you're at the hotel and someone says, did you see the Justice League thing? And you're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're caught up in the booths and the selling and the people there. But for us that aren't there, we're there with our phones, like, what's going on there? And we see like the feeds, the release right when it comes out. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Definitely makes sense. But what was your favorite? Trailer. Was there one that you liked the most that came out, or one that you're? I guess let's do a favorite and maybe a least favorite if you have one. Well, there's quite a few to choose from.
My least favorite would probably be the King Arthur thing, which is a shame.
That's
because
the Guy Ritchie one, right?
Yeah, which is a shame because I love those kind of movies and I love Charlie Hunnam, and but that movie just looks terrible. And it just looks bad. The only way that movie would make sense is if he halfway through jumped in a Jaeger and then jumped on an even bigger motorcycle and started driving around. That's the only way that movie looks good to me. But of the good stuff, I mean, there was there was a wealth of good stuff. All the Netflix teasers looked awesome. Can't wait for those things.
Yeah.
The Wonder Woman trailer is universally acclaimed at this point. And the Justice League trailer, I think that'd probably be my favorite because it surprised me so much.
Yeah.
Speaking of the...
I wasn't sure about that movie. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, because I wanted to talk about this just a little bit in Comic Book Fanatics, but didn't get a chance to slip in my thoughts. They were talking a lot about Aquaman. And that actor, I forget his name, but I've seen him act in other movies before.
Jason Momoa.
Yeah, and this is just my thought about the guy, but when I was looking at him, one of the things that really captures you are his eyes and his eyebrows. And so I'm thinking, why didn't they just give him this really cool looking fade or short hair on top with being blonde and keeping his eyebrows the way they were? Because to me, he reminds me of somebody off of the Pirates of the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. I feel like with those eyes and those eyebrows, you could have put blonde hair on him to give him more of an Aquaman look, mm-hmm. Instead of how he looks now. That's just my opinion, but what do you guys think?
Yeah. Cami, Reader 1717, she said something, and this is kind of stuck in my head ever since she said it, that he looks like Khal Drogo, but wet.
Well, yeah, because he is Khal Drogo, but wet.
Exactly. He's not Aquaman. He's,
But he is Aquaman. You know what I mean? He's an Aquaman, just a slightly different Aquaman. I mean, the first time we saw Aquaman with a hook hand, we were like, what? Huh? But so if he's got a different colored hair, as long as he's got both hands, I'm happy. And
I'm glad that we get the hook. I was just like, that actually ensured that I would never really get into any of his books. I was just like, what is this hook hand? I just couldn't understand.
He shot it like a
sad pirate. I don't understand. And actually, too, I remember as far as just the character in general, that's really when he became pretty much the joke of the Justice League. It was just what are you here for? You get some fish? No. All right, bye.
Hook hand Aquaman's right up there with the spider armor. It's one of those things that you're like, why?
Yeah.
But I'm a huge Aquaman fan, and I can admit that in public quarters now. And I'm happy to see Aquaman kind of being given his due as a badass, because he really is.
It's funny. In the animated universe, they portray him as that. I just never knew much about him. I mean, all the big Aquaman stories happened well before I was born, so. I never really had a chance to, I shouldn't say that. I've never picked up any trades with him to really see what he's all about. I've just kind of, just gone with my assumption where it's just, he's Aquaman.
What Jeff Johns did with him at the beginning of the New 52 was perfect. Absolutely perfect. In the first, 3 pages of that book, he completely took the piss out of everything that people sort of think of as stereotypically Aquaman, and reminds the reader that this is a guy who is the king of 70% of the world and is strong and bulletproof like Superman, and you do not mess with him. And it's it's I would check that out actually if you wanted to sort of get an idea of Aquaman. The first volume of the New 52 Aquaman, really good stuff. And then the Throne of Atlantis crossover, also really fun.
Yes, yes. I was gonna say because I really got an idea of who this guy really was in the Throne of Atlantis.
Yeah. Very good stuff. But yeah, I love Aquaman. I'm just in that. I was so happy in that footage just to see him being like a badass, essentially. And so I could put the rest of it aside.
Yeah. So are you more an Aquaman fan or more Namor? What do you like better?
Oh, Aquaman. Namor's a prissy bitch. Woo. Yeah, I said it.
Yeah, no, the reason I asked, there's been some talk about that lately, so I just wanted to...
That guy's always like, I don't like you surface dwellers. All right, I'm an Avenger. I don't like you guys. All right, I'm in the Illuminati. Make up your mind. Pick a side, damn it.
Exactly, yeah. All right, so I guess another one that came out was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with Ghost Rider.
Oh.
Did you guys see that? There's a teaser for that. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I haven't seen it, but I think that Ghost Rider coming in TV is probably a good fit for him because I kind of like the movies that they had a few years back, but you could just see that a lot of people didn't really catch on to it, so maybe they want to keep him in the picture but just fit him into a TV mold. But, you know, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
And it's Ghost Driver.
Yeah, he's not
true.
He drives a car now.
Yeah, it's the Jamie
Rider.
Well,
I mean, he's Ghost Rider, but like,
Yeah,
I mean, he's still the character named Ghost Rider, but he basically drives a muscle car.
Oh, see, I haven't seen it yet.
It was the first Marvel Now, I think. They sort of relaunched him as this young kid who inherited the spirit of vengeance. But he didn't have a motorcycle. He had like a tricked out car. And it was kind of like Speed Racer, but flamier.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't. The only problem I see with it is just they have to do more introducing like more of that mystical element into the show, just because you don't really have that right now. I mean, you had Inhumans, you had just a couple of different small things pop in and out, but when it comes into it, you don't really have that that spiritual element into the show. So they have to do something with it. I just don't know. I mean, I don't see it yet. So I mean, it's just like when it comes out, maybe I'll be like, oh, okay, now I see what they're going for. I like it, or maybe like they're way off the mark. I really don't know. I know that Ghost Rider is a huge he's a huge property. He's a really cool character. I'd like to see them give another shot to the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider, and try to see if they can do it right now that they have, I mean, especially if they have the rights to it, because that's the other thing that's kind of strange is, I don't know if Johnny Blaze or even Danny Ketch for that matter, like the first two Ghost Riders, I don't know if they're kind of tied up in something else, another title where they can't be used, and the new kid's the only Robbie Rodriguez, I think his name is. He's the only one that they actually have access to that they can say, okay, we'll put him on screen.
I think that their choice to use Robbie as opposed to the other two is just rooted in the fact that Danny and Johnny haven't really been seen in comics for years. I think the last thing that I read with those guys was like Garth Ennis and Clayton Crane did a couple miniseries like back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Whereas the Robbie stuff was only 2 or 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. So it's a little more modern, a little more hippie. It's a younger character. It's that kind of stuff. So that makes more sense to me. But like you say, I would love to see a full-out flaming skull bike chains, like just.
I mean, that would be awesome.
And it's one of those things that the whole Marvel movie and TV universe needs to break the barrier down first, because until Doctor Strange comes out, you haven't really had magic. In that universe yet. So. Even in Thor, they went out of their way to be like, no, they're space Vikings. It's not magic. It's just technology that you call magic. That kind of stuff. So once they're able to introduce magic into that, I think it's going to open a whole bunch of doors for them, and they'll be able to do some of the really crazy stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Doctor Strange, the movie. After seeing that skyrocketed to the top of my list.
Oh yeah.
movie that I'm most excited for. So I'm really hopeful that not only that movie will be awesome, but that they're going to bring in all those elements that we're talking about. To
The new
universe.
Doctor Strange book has been great too.
Yeah. I only read the first issue actually.
The Jason Aaron Chris Bachalo book has been fantastic. So.
And he's pretty much, I mean, he's wielding the battle axe. Like he's actually like, it seems like he's more of a more of a warrior than a wizard at this point. Yeah,
well, he's learning to adapt. Like in that book, these beings from another realm show up and they start siphoning the magic. So that's why he has to pick up weapons, and because he's not as powerful as he was, he's got to gather all these other sorcerers. It's kind of a cool like mystical thing that goes on. It's a great book.
Yeah. Nice. I'm sort of developing an idea for a theme for Comic Bento in my head. We're talking about this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think just Mystic, Doctor Strange and Ghost Rider and things like that would be pretty awesome.
That's an interesting idea. Let me write that down. And yeah. That's another great idea that I had right there. Thanks.
There you go. All right. And we talked about Thor. I don't know, Thor Ragnarok. I didn't really see much for that release. I know that there was a trailer for it, but I think it was just shown in the hall. I don't know if it was released.
They did that for Guardians of the Galaxy.
I couldn't find that one either. Like I looked on YouTube and I just couldn't find it. I found fan-made trailers, but nothing of it. I did see the pictures though of the Hulk's armor. It looks awesome. The Gladiator armor. It looks really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, for Guardians, it was just shown in the hall. It was Yondu fighting a bunch of Ravagers and a couple other things. So it was more a description of it was released versus the actual teaser, the actual trailer.
Yeah, James Gunn said that he didn't want to release it to the public because he's like a perfectionist and doesn't want people to see things until it's finished. So
I did hear a rumor that got leaked out that I guess they're talking about Peter Quill's father being Ego, the planet.
That is confirmed, yes.
That is so
yeah, Kurt Russell.
It's crazy.
But it's strange, though. I mean, I don't know enough about Peter Quill. Like, that's not real. That's not true. You know what I mean? But I feel like, I mean, I have faith that the story's going to be good just because the first one was such a sleeper that came out of nowhere. Like, it was so great. But, I mean, that's kind of weird, though. Like, yeah, I'm a planet. I can see you from afar away.
Yeah.
It's just kind of weird, like, you know what I mean? You have a human, with a father who's a planet. I mean, hey, whatever. Yeah. I mean, I know he didn't start out that way, but, and there's going to be an origin story with it. It's just, it seems so strange to me, though.
Some guys are growers, others are showers, It's just the way it is. Let me ask you guys a question, actually. How are we feeling about Suicide Squad?
I'm excited. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think it's going to be one of the better films of the year. I think it's still kind of a sleeper because it's not going to really catch on until a lot of buzz hits people's ears about it, because I know a lot of people don't really know too much about Suicide Squad, but it's going to be those people that see it that first weekend that's going to really get word out, that's going to hopefully draw new fans to the movie. But I think it's going to be pretty good. I think I'm pretty anxious to see how they're going to do Harley Quinn and the Joker, see if they tie that relationship together or not. But I think it's going to be definitely something to look out for.
Yeah. I think the fact that they don't, that there are a bunch of characters that people don't fully know about is what's going to actually, like, make it that, it's going to help make it successful, just because, a lot of people are going to be experiencing it for the very first time. Even if you are, a tenured comic fan, like, it's still the first time that, outside of, this most recent book, it's the first time this group has been assembled. I mean, that group itself isn't more than, 2 or 3 years old. That incantation of it. So it's just like, I think that I think that it's gonna definitely have I think it's gonna have a really successful run. I also think that they're smarter about it this time, because I think, like, they need, DC as far as Warner Brothers needs a big hit with this movie, and I think this has to be the one that kind of starts you out in a good way, just because of the big, like, drop that they've had since The Dark Knight. Like they really do need a big hit to compete with Marvel, because, I mean, if this flops too, I won't say pack it in, but I will say, like, really honestly, like, you got to start questioning whether it's worth it to be making these big blockbusters anymore. Just because, I mean, you obviously can't compete with Marvel. If it flops, which I don't think it will, but if it does, they definitely need to take a hard look in the mirror and figure out what they're going to do with this movie franchise.
Yeah, I think they did that when Batman and Superman was met with such a stalwart. What?
Yeah.
So, and that's why you're seeing like the Justice League footage that is lighter and it's shot differently, and it's there's a lot more interactivity and characters that look like they're having fun, and B aren't just like shadows moving around, So hopefully they're on the right track with it for sure.
Yeah, I know that Ray Jr. from Comic Book Fanatics posted a like this, what is it, all the phases from Marvel, and then I asked him, I said, so where is DC compared to all this? And I think he was like 4 years behind or something like that, and I see a much further away than that, because they need to not concern themselves with Marvel. I think that would be the most effective thing for them right now, is to not worry about what Marvel is doing, because if you're so focused on what your competition or what your enemy is doing, it's going to hinder you from having the most productive, most storytelling type of films. Because I thought that they did it right with Batman. I don't think that DC or Marvel was just getting started, but they were so focused on just telling a good story that it did so well. And that's what they need to get back to. They need to get back to just focusing on telling a good story and not worrying about trying to rush out properties and products because your competition is so far ahead of you. Because it's kind of like Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods is good when he's ahead of the game, but once Tiger Woods gets behind, he's horrible because he's always so focused on trying to get ahead or trying to get where he thinks he needs to be, and it just hinders his production, in my opinion.
I agree 100%, and I'll tell you, the only way that if DC is looking to beat Marvel at movies, the only way they're going to do it is to ignore shared universes.
Yep.
Is to go in the completely opposite direction and be like, you know what? Here's our trilogy of Batman movies. Here's our trilogy of Superman movies. Here's our Green Lantern movies. Maybe we'll do a Justice League movie later on, but we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to build these characters in a cinematic way and let them stand alone and be good on their own and not have to worry about it, because everyone wants the shared universe now. I mean, fucking Hasbro's building a shared universe with Transformers and G.I. Joe and Mask and all these things, right? So even, it's what killed the last Spider-Man franchise, was trying to build a shared universe and trying to, set up 6 more movies within one movie, so you sacrifice the story because we got to show the Rhino because he's going to be big in the next 2 movies, and this we got to gloss over this and do that. The best thing they could possibly do is just make one movie at a time and move down the field, and then eventually they'll be hitting the touchdown.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, it's something that I'm curious about is that DC doesn't have their own film, brand just like Marvel does. You know what I mean? Like Marvel has Marvel Studios. I don't know if, like you said, kind of if they did their own standalones, but at least had maybe like a core group of directors, producers, everything that they wanted to make these movies, and then just kind of had it be like, okay, we're not going to call it, DC Studios or anything like that, but we are going to have, just these core group of people making these movies, and so that, everybody gets familiar, everybody knows what, what they like, what they don't like, and then just keep it to that extent. The other thing, too, that I worry about, like how everyone was saying that, the joke that Ray said, it was 4 years behind. It's just like, that actually kind of is a little telling, just because, they really should, you got to really think about pulling this together before it gets to the point where it's too late, and it's just because you don't want to start hitting your stride when it's just like, all right, comic book movies are over, and we don't care, we're into, whatever the new trend is that, people want to see. So, just because eventually people are going to want to be like, kind of move on from these. It's sad to say, just because I'll see every single one of them, I don't mind. But, but there are going to be, who knows, like maybe there might be a thing where they want buddy comedies again, and that's just going to be the next big trend for the next 5 years. But, it's just something that they have to solidify. Really, and I think that going independent movie, like independent franchises, is good. I think that's probably a better idea, because that's where they shine. The Dark Knight was great. It was its own thing. It didn't have to be anything else. Just the other movies, they kind of I mean, Green Lantern.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have to talk about that, but like
they were trying to set up too much.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think a lot of it is just kind of like you have too many. You know, you have to have trust. That's why I say you have that group of people. You have to have trusted directors that you know that you want to tell the story of. Just because it's just so strange how sometimes some people get their hands on these things, and it's just like, okay, you're directing this movie, and it's just like. And then you talk to them, and while they're talking about the movie, while it's coming out, they're doing their thing. Then after it comes out, you find out, I really don't know anything about this. I just kind of took this, and I like the screenplay. The screenplay seemed cool, and we had a big budget for effects, and then we put it out there, and I thought it was a good movie, but apparently no one else did. It's just like, you can't have that. You have to have someone that at least you feel comfortable being like, all right, this is in your hands. You know what we're going for. Go with this. I think that there's been too much of that whole thing of where, this is the property. All right, study up on this, and then make your movie how you would. It's like no. Just kind of, here's our vision. I mean, I think like they should step up and have a bigger role in it, where it's just like, this is the vision, this is the story that we want to tell. This is how keep it within these parameters, and then just do the best you can with it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, somebody said it best. They said that they're so focused on where they're going that they're not worried about where they're at.
Yeah.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah.
Yep, hit the nail on the head there.
Gentlemen, I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation, but I have a little girl in the other room who's waiting for me to read her a bedtime story. So I have to take my leave of you here, but I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, we've enjoyed having you here. Yeah.
And before I go, Comic Bento, Comic Bento, Comic Bento. And if you're looking for someone else to hop on your panel at any time, please let me know, because it's been a blast.
Okay, absolutely. Once again, thank you for coming. It's been fun having you here. The insight, the knowledge, the fun that we've had has been great. So you're welcome here anytime. So
awesome,
appreciate it.
Cool. I'm sleeping on your couch.
All right.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great night.
Take care, Jeff.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Very cool.
Yeah.
Great guy. Yeah, he told me he might have to pop off, so I saw that coming as we were getting towards the time he was telling me about. So that was fun having him on. I don't know. Have you guys ever done a subscription box before?
No, not yet. My sister's done a couple, but none for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I was looking at it. I might give it a shot. I'm not ready to subscribe to the year or 3 or 6 month, but I think I'll give it a shot one time with that.
You can do the one at a time, one month thing. Yeah, I was kind of the same way. I did Loot Crate first, and like he was saying, it's things that it's a couple cool things in it, but there's a lot of other stuff that just might end up going in the drawer. It's like, it's a theme, but it's not everything that can be useful. So to find one that's actually, geared towards the comic books or geared towards the graphic novels, it is definitely something that I was intrigued by. And once I got that first box, I ended up getting a bunch. I only saved 3 of the boxes. Yeah, 3. But I've gotten a bunch more of them. So once you get that first one, don't expect it to be your last.
Wow. I mean, I like the idea of possibly getting a hardcover. I mean, because the hardcovers obviously are more expensive.
Yeah, man, this is a $50 MSRP on here. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
And I never really knew about Brian Epstein until I read this. So if you like music and music history, it's cool.
Is that something you burned through in one sitting, or did you take a few days to read it?
This? That took a few days. It's pretty dense. I mean, it's got some splash pages and stuff, but it's pretty dense. It's a thick book. So it took me, a couple of things. $50 a better, right?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys want to keep talking about some of the con news, like Brie Larson as Captain Marvel or anything like that. But we're getting on, getting later on in the night. So I don't know if you want to start wrapping it up. It is AG. It's really cool. I recommend this. If you find it out, pick it up.
Okay. It's up to you guys. I'm down for whatever. I feel like it's a good moment to maybe wrap it up. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I was kind of feeling the same way. I wanted to let you guys, if you had something else you wanted to get out, because there was just so freaking much with the con.
Yeah,
We couldn't cover it all. But if there was like a highlight for you, definitely. But if we've said it all, then that's cool too. Yeah, definitely have a lot more to talk about next time. And you guys in the chat, you definitely check out Comic Bento. I'm gonna put a link in the description as well for the website. And he had the other one too that I'm going to put a link for as well. So there's a couple different ones. So check that out. Hopefully he'll be back again. We can have another fun conversation with him. But in the following weeks, we're going to have other guests and other fun people show up. So keep tuning in here to this chat, and you guys definitely. Hopefully you'll continue to come back too. But you want to just give some final thoughts and maybe shout out a channel or shout out, somebody?
I don't know, final thoughts, just, I don't know, have a good week with collecting. I know for me, like I said, potentially welcoming a new nephew into the world. So I'm going to do my best to stay up with comics and hopefully have a new video or two up. But might be a little busy this weekend, not gonna lie to you. So, I will most likely at some point put up my Comic Book Wednesday video. Hoping to do it either on Wednesday or I might do it a couple of days later. But other than that, just kind of, going with the flow and just, being. Actually, it's funny because I'm kind of like on call at this point because my two nieces, it's like if it happens at night, the baby, goes in my sister-in-law goes into labor, then she's like, all right, so you're gonna watch the girls and it's gonna be all right. So I'm just kind of like waiting for my phone to ring at any moment to be like, all right, is it time? Let's go. I thought it was gonna be last night actually, but just kind of contractions, not quite ready yet. So, but so that's what I'm looking forward to. I know it's not comic related, but just it's a big moment going on in my life right now. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congrats, by the way, too.
Thank you.
Well, I'm pulling for a bunch of comic book donations to Chris's new nephew coming into this world, so we need to get him get him up on comic books at such a young age so he can be a part of the family. But no, that's good, man. I'm glad you got an addition to the family on the way. I just want to give a shout out, to you guys on the panel. Thanks for having me on board. Shout out to guys who are still subscribing to my channel, StrictlyComix, even though I haven't really done a video in over a month. I will be putting out a video soon because I just found out that books that I submitted to CBCS are now in the grading process and should be in my possession hopefully within the next couple of weeks. And as soon as it is, I'm going to put out a video because I had about 15 or 16 books that I submitted to CBCS, and I'm really looking forward to see what kind of grades those come back as. But and then Jeff, it was great to have him. Shout out to him on the panel. Very interesting. Didn't really know anything about him, but I do like the idea that they have going on. And just really great conversation with Con, kind of behind the scenes at conventions and stuff like that. So it was good. It was good. It was real good, guys. So definitely looking forward to doing this again.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, very cool. All right, so my shout out is to the folks in the chat. A lot of really cool people. I was watching some good conversation going on there too, and some really great questions. So, Biggie's Comics, AG Surfer, Amazing Murphinator, Buckshot. You snuck your name in there, so I'd say your name too, right? I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, a lot of fun. Between that and us, and having Jeff on was really cool. Like you said, with the insight there, some things that I never would have considered. So hearing that perspective was really cool. And like he said, Comic Bento, guys, go check it out. Yeah, that's gonna do it for today. That's another episode of COMICONversation. It's been a lot of fun. And I always close out with just saying, collect what you love, collect what you want. Don't tell anybody that it's wrong, and with that, you can't go wrong. So with that, that'll close out the show. Have a good night, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Bye, guys.
Peace out.
Bye, guys.